Welcome to Give a Shift, the podcast you want to be listening to for positive, radical change. My name is Nancy Leeds Gribble, and I'm one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Alicia Ziegler, your other co-host.
And we are so excited you're here. We have an amazing guest today. But first, we want to let you know that Alicia and we are on a mission to help you make the shifts you need in your life to create the health, the body that you love living in. So we are excited for today's guest. We have Michelle Rains, and I'm going to read the bio, and then we're going to jump right into it. Michelle is a certified breath guide, a mentor, a wife, and a mom. Her passion for breath work developed after her own experience in December of 2019. She has since been helping others transform their lives through the power of their own breath, even becoming a certified through Pause breath work in October of 2021. She shares her depth to life that has been found since finding her breath, the inner peace and calm that is now felt in her daily life, and how she manages her anxiety with confidence and freedom. Michelle is passionate about others living a more fulfilling and purposeful life, one breath at a time. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I read that when I was looking it over, and I'm like, ooh, I cannot wait to hear how she manages her anxiety and confidence and freedom. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you. It's so cool to hear someone else read your bio, right? And like to listen to it as an observer. And I'm like, that's me. That's me. I'm so excited to be here, ladies. So excited.
Like a pat on the back.
I was like getting chills to my own bio.
I do that. Yes, I do that. Yes. So we would love, that was a brief bio. We'd love to learn a little bit, more about you and kind of your journey to how you got here.
Yeah. Oh, and it's been a journey, and it still is, right? It's just this ever evolving journey of life. And like the bio says, in 2019, I had my own experience. So I was in San Diego at a retreat, and noticed on the itinerary that breathwork was coming to us. There was, this woman, her name is Samantha Skelly. She was coming to the house that we were staying at. And I honestly had no interest in breathwork, but the truth is I had no clue what it was. What I knew at that point up to 2019 was that I learned really, really well to be ultra independent, that I learned to never stop, because if you stop, you start to feel, and that sucks. And so I would just be an over Alicia. I'm talking to you, babe. Yeah, I saw that.
I was like, I know she's just going to come on and be like, we hung out once. I know everything about you.
Totally. So I thought I had this anxiety issue and this life issue. I thought I had it managed really well, because I would just pack my schedule so incredibly full, and I'd wear it as a badge of honor. Like, I am so busy, I don't even have time to, breathe. And so, really up to 2019, I had been married at that point for about 10 years, and our marriage was, for the lack of a better word, hell. We had separated 4 or 5 times. We kept getting back together because we had kids, we had things together. Let's just make this work. Let's be, roommates. And I didn't realize at the time what was going on, but I'll refer back to that. So this breathwork comes and finds me at this retreat, and I reluctantly and a little bit begrudgingly participated. I was like, I really don't want to do this. And that day, what I will tell you is, over the course of 3 hours that this woman was there, building rapport with us, helping us feel safe, and then guiding us through our own breath journey. I remember at first dropping into the breath, and my mind was like, this is bizarre. This is weird. Nothing about it feels natural. And the and to it was, this is only making my anxiety worse. And when you take breath, that is an unconscious system in our bodies, it's pretty dope. The 3 of us are sitting here, we're breathing, and we don't think about it. right?
Right.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
breathe. But then
Yeah.
you take conscious hold of it, you shift it, you manipulate it to get out of this hyper vigilance of the mind, and you drop into your body. And I'm telling you, if you've never done that, and for me at 37 years old, I had never done that. It was scary. It was like, oh wait, this is what I have avoided this long, is really connecting with myself and my emotions and my feelings. This
Mm.
is what I've worked so hard to not do. And so I just remember the anxiety ramping up, and it was about probably 10, 12, 15 minutes into the breath where I got this attitude of, if I'm going to sit here and do this breath for an hour, I'm going in. Like, I'm going to see what this is all about, because I'm kind of felt stuck at this point, right?
Right.
So I remember that I had that moment of clarity of, I'm doing this. What can I lose? What can I lose from this? I guess maybe have a panic attack, right? So the next thing I know, we are being guided back into our bodies, back into sitting up, back into what was present and here around us. And I still have a journal somewhere around here. And the very first page in that journal is my handwriting in a very shaky manner of what I experienced. And
Mm.
I said, this is the closest to myself I have ever felt in my entire life. And I felt safe doing it. And I said it was an out of body, but the most in body experience I've ever had. And from that moment, from December 28th of 2019, all through 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. We don't have to rehash that. I was obsessed with breath work. I was obsessed with anything that was happening online that was guiding breath work. I was there because what I knew was I loved the feeling when I was in breath, when I was doing the actual breath work, when I was being witnessed by somebody guiding breath. I knew I just was obsessed with that feeling. And slowly but surely, things around me, the way I perceived things started to change. Nothing around me was changing. My perception of things started to shift. And I started to just really fall in love with
Oh.
life, with humans. Before that, I would have told you I don't love people. I would before night. Okay, I knew I loved you. I knew I loved you. Like, I knew it. I'm like, we are mirrors for each other, baby. Like, yeah, I feel this. I would tell people it's two people out there. I don't like people. People annoy me. Yeah. Uh-huh. Right. And I actually got to this point in my journey after doing breath work for about a solid year where I started to think, I think I want to do this for other people. I want to be someone who says, no, there's something to this. I started to view people as something so different. They weren't just humans, they were these like walking beautiful souls. And like I just started to realize that everyone on this earth, we all just crave love, and we all just crave to feel happy and included and joyful. And we're all just doing our best. We're doing our best with what we've been given. And so I just started to have these inner shifts that I realized, like, I do want to do this work. And I approached my husband, and he thought I was a little bit nuts because it was a grip of money for us at the time to go through this certification, 6 months
Wow.
of a certification, multiple hours of going inward. So the first 3 months of my certification, we dove into us.
Mm.
And that was hard. It was really hard.
That's a huge exposing of the skeletons in the closet, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. It just, the stuff that you kind of avoid your whole life really looking at in the face, we kind of had to go there. And my mentor would always say, you have to take yourself to the depths in which you choose to hold other people in. And I'll never forget that, because I'm like, I have to go to these places if I ever want to be able to hold people from an empathetic place
Yeah.
in this space.
That's
And so
beautiful.
April 2021, I shuffled out my money. I said, here you go. I have no clue what I'm going to be in 6 months. But I hope that I'm a better person with a deeper, gratitude for life. And I will tell you, after that 6 months, I did come out a different person, an absolute different person.
I was going to make a joke and just say on that because, why not? But I'm like, you know what happens when you get so much oxygen? You just get so happy.
Totally. Totally.
Like, how many times, you think to yourself, oh, I'm so uptight, or I'm having anxiety, or I'm so stressed, but you're not breathing. You're not
Right.
giving yourself the oxygen. So you're getting tired, you're getting fatigued, you're getting agitated, cranky,
Yeah.
and you're like anti-people. Everybody's starting to kind of, piss you off a little bit more. And then you're like,
Yeah.
I just take a breath and take a
Take a breath.
moment and
Right.
be in that. And then it makes you so much more present. And then you have the wherewithal to be like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the situation we're in or dealing with, or the circumstances. But I'm always like, oh, it's a little low too. That never, sidelines on a football gets you going again, right? But I remember I wanted you on because I had, in such a short amount of time in your masterclass, I went from not really wanting to go, didn't want to let our mutual friend down, wanted to meet you, was tired. And then I was like, you know what? Just commit, because you haven't done something like this. And the resistance could be the very reason, because you already know you just might feel a damn thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and something different than you have to turn on in another element. And then when I took your master class and we did the dance party and then we did the breathing, I mean, I was sobbing. I was beyond joyful. I felt like I could see things in myself I hadn't seen it. I mean, and it was 1 hour. So I can only imagine what 6 months brought back to your life, like tenfold. Did it parlay into the changes in your relationship? Because you had mentioned your.
I love that. I love that, to circle back there. Absolutely. So I hit this point where in certification, they start talking about these different qualities, right? Like surrender, allowing, accepting. And we would go really in depth over these qualities and how do you actually embody is kind of a buzzword, but how do you embody this in yourself? And one thing with me that a lot of my anxiety was because I constantly had to have control. And so when we got to the quality of surrender, I'll never forget, I literally wanted to hit end meeting and leave that call, because I was like, I am not talking about surrender. I'm not losing control. I have worked so hard to control everything, or so I thought. And when we started to work on these of surrendering, what I started to surrender into is that I get to receive love. And for the first 10 years of my marriage, I fought that. All he was trying to do was love me. My husband loves me to a depth that is, I really feel blessed with him. And I could not allow him to love me because I didn't think I deserved to receive that. And finally, there was this point where I said, what do I have to lose if I just allow my heart to be totally open, totally vulnerable to him? And through breath, through finding safety in my own body, I was able to let that wall down. Anyone could have told me, you have a wall around, let yourself be loved. And they could have told me ad nauseum. And until I could feel and access the actual safety in my body, I couldn't do it. And I just remember the moment where I was like, I said to him, I am going to let you love me the way you have wanted to love me for 10 years. And I want us to go all in on this marriage. And I am more in love with that man in the last 4 years than I ever thought I could be. So everything shifted for me.
I have a question for you on that note then. Did you find, or perhaps you have an event in your life, was it trauma response of you having a wall? Or, because I know for people such as myself who's had severe trauma at a young age, surrender is extremely hard for me, as is, giving up control. Just because I always felt, well, if I can control my environment, I feel safe because every day is already out of control. So what are the things I can't control? I can make my bed. I can do that, like almost in a very strict routine. So I know that, so the surrender is such a huge a
Yeah.
huge thing for, I know for a lot of women
Yeah.
that come out of a trauma. So you don't have to share your trauma. I'm just saying, did you have something that you think was the catalyst for that, just so far?
Absolutely. Yes, I definitely did. Cause I always tell people once we have this like bunker built around our heart, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over many experiences and situations that you've gone through. Because I believe all of us are born into this world and shifted off to our caregiver with love. That's all we know. Right. We don't have that bunker built around our heart. And then either soon after or years after you're born, you start to go through these experiences that make you feel like, oh, maybe love's not safe. Mine started in my years of starting to date and have horrible abusive relationships that I would stay in too long. And so I started to feel like men aren't safe, or men don't love for the right reason, or you don't deserve to receive the love, but you have to overly give. I would overly give of myself in every relationship. Yeah. So yes, I do have my own set of trauma. And then when I met my husband and we were dating at the time, when he would give me love, I was like, this doesn't feel familiar. This feels like, what does he want from me? And
Conditional, right?
totally
Conditional. That's the word that I've been
If you
thinking.
love me the way that you love me, then what do I need to give back? Because it's always, I think it's built that for tat. Speaking from experience, the bus is coming. I'll jump right in front of it. But the same way. And it's because you have that really hard time of being like, oh, I can receive.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to pouring it out, but the second you don't, whoa, that's different.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to just resist and move on and pack my schedule and bye.
Yep.
But yet deep down, I think the secret is it's so interesting how bad you crave it and want it.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
Like
Oh
then
yeah.
it's like, oh, I wanted it and then I kicked it to the curb.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
How did you guys navigate that?
So in 2020, the beginning of 2020, he and I separated for, I think that was the fourth or the fifth time. And that was the last time we separated. We were headed for divorce. My husband finally said, I'm not doing this with you anymore. I'm just trying to love you. I'm filing the papers. And that did scare me, to where I said, hold on. I think there's something to this. Like, I think let me let you love me the way you're trying, and let's give this one more shot, and I'm willing to go all in. And so a lot of people ask like what the turning point for he and I, because people will see us together today and they're like, there's no way. I'm like, yes, we did not like each other for the better part of 10 years. Well, I didn't like him, or I wasn't allowing him in. But it was a shift of me saying, hold on, because I feel something. I had that first breathwork experience. I feel something. And for me, that's really new, because I had been so guarded and blocked. And my mantra in life up till I found breathwork was, if you hurt me, I'll hurt you 10 times worse. So I did not want to be put in a place where someone could possibly hurt me worse. And so I just said, let's start to date each other again. And I'm going to treat this like a brand new relationship. And let me just see if I can start to slowly sip in a little bit of love from you, like a little bit at a time. Because my husband's love language at the time was physical touch. And that was really hard for me, really hard. And so little sips, he would hold my hand in the car, and that would be enough for that night. Right.
Right.
And it just started to slowly become familiar. But it was because it was so unfamiliar to my system that it felt wrong.
Yeah. Oh, so many people are going to relate to that. And I think even if they maybe weren't connecting, I have a wall or something, because a lot of people don't even know they have a wall, right? Like, it's what you've been doing your whole life. It's how you've behaved. It's kind of, you've been trained that way. So you don't know that you have a wall. So it's great that you just said that this was how I was. His love language is this. And then like coming together with that, just like small, holding the hand or doing things, because I think a lot of us too, I do think a lot of women will relate to that. And also what you said, Alicia, and both of you, if this, then that, like there's always like a trade-off. I think we could dive into that forever. I am curious if it's okay if we explain what breath work is. So
Yeah.
every time I think, what's so funny when you two were talking about breathing, I'm always like, when my Apple Watch tells me to breathe, I'm like, what have I been doing? I feel like I've been breathing all day. But somebody's like, no, they mean breathe.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
how am I existing if I'm not breathing? What is this watch saying? So I would love to hear like really what it is, what breath work is.
Yes. Absolutely. And breath work is probably one of the hardest things to just actually describe. I always tell people, like, come experience it for yourself. But what breath work is we as humans are very shallow breathers, right? We breathe like literally from basically the top half of our lungs out most of the day. And you got to think we're so stressed out as a society that we're very, very constricted, right? And so a lot of times when we actually stop and we take a deep breath, and us as women, this is really fascinating. And this is what I have found true and true through so many of the places that I have guided breath. Women have a hard time taking a deep breath and letting their belly expand. We're taught, suck your belly in, put your shoulders back, suck your gut in, whatever it is. So us actually letting our bellies expand in the form that it's supposed to actually take a deep breath, right? So breath work is taking the unconscious system of the breath, bringing it into our consciousness, right? And starting to manipulate it so that when I say drop into the body, the breath is doing it, because the hypervigilance of the mind, it will give up if you keep a breath pattern going. And you are paying such attention to even the feeling of the breath entering your nose, the feeling of the breath exiting through the mouth. You start to pay so much attention to that. Your body will then get in a rhythm with that breath. And pretty soon you're feeling tingles, vibrations, you're feeling feelings. So many people cry in breath work. And let me tell you why. Us humans, we are fascinating. We cry when we're happy. We cry when we're sad. We cry when we're frustrated. We cry when we're angry. We cry. And that's a lot of times the expression of the body wants to do. But as grown-ups, we can't walk around just sobbing our brains out all the time. So we don't, or we go through a situation and we have to be strong for this person, or we don't want to show emotion. So we take it and we shove it down. And I think of it as when you blow up those balls and then you put it under the swimming pool water. And if you don't hold on to that thing, it's going to pop out and hit you in the face. Yeah.
Broken nose.
You're going to end up with a bloody nose. Yeah. So you got to think of your emotions as the same when we just keep pushing them down, when we're just like, how often do we say, I don't have time to feel that? Like, I got to keep moving. And it's more so we don't want to feel it. I did that that's why I built my schedule the way I did, is so that I didn't have time to even like feel. And so I was just shoving that beach ball underneath until I lost grip of it and it plopped up and all of the emotions, right? So I always tell people, think of it as like, we're walking through a grocery store and we stop in an aisle and we're looking at all the coffee, and all we want is
I love this analogy.
right? I know coffee's a lot.
I'm in. You got
To me. So we're looking at the coffee and all we want is the Dunkin' Donuts, the caramel kind. And we're looking and they don't have it. And we have a meltdown. We like have an this store never has it. We are not melting down about the freaking flavor of coffee. We're melting down about the week's worth of shit that we have not allowed ourselves to feel.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden it's coming out. So now the crime, or it doesn't look like it matches the crime and the punishment, because it's like my husband would be like, you had a meltdown over coffee. And then all of a sudden I'm like, well, the kids have done this, and all of it comes spewing out. It's the beach ball popping.
Yeah.
So with breath work, if we allow ourselves to do the work, even in the moments where we don't feel like we need it. I don't know if either of you women have ever been in therapy and you have a therapy appointment coming up and you go, I don't really feel like I need it. Like, I feel okay. Like,
till I get
yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
I got to schedule 6 more.
Totally. Yeah. So we like think we're cruising along and we don't need it and we're good. But then I have people who will come into my breathwork spaces and literally sometimes they will use it as like, that is the first time in 2 weeks I've just given myself to just be and like relax. And that's what my nervous system needed. It's not always an uprooting, upheaving of bawling, of sobbing and crying and pounding. But I tell you, the number of different scenarios I have seen in breath work of, one woman, there was so much anger and rage inside of her body that she flipped over into like child's pose, but started just pounding the pillow in front of her. And it just needed to come out of her body, the expression. It's not bad to be angry,
Right.
but it gets deemed that way.
Yeah, I think, have you ever read The Body Keeps the Score?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's kind of like that. I think for a lot of individuals and myself included, because I was going to get it together myself for so long. And then you realize I couldn't run it out. I was trying, I would try
Yes.
everything.
Mm-hmm.
And, you read the book and what takeaway is you're a sponge. That's why when you squeeze and you breathe, everything comes out. The water is going to get released and it's okay. Like even just this week, it's so funny. You would say it's not the moment in, it's the before. I was doing an audition. I did 2 takes. I took a huge breath, Michelle. I thought of you. I was like, and my friend's like, should we go again? And we start the scene and I am bawling. And she's like, to the point where I'm like, well, we can't send this. And like, I can't even get it together. And I was like, I need to just take a minute. Like I'm breathing and I'm feeling.
Yes.
I hadn't stopped. I had not stopped until that one moment when she was like, okay, and I took a breath and that was it. And
yes,
the acceptance of just saying, let me take 5. Let me go to the bathroom. Let me hold my beach ball below my face.
Yes.
and just process that and then do something like schedule a class with Michelle where you can take an hour to yourself. But what do you think is the biggest impetus for people coming to see you? Is it the curiosity, the need? Are people really aware of it? Like Nancy was saying, not everybody's so sure about breathwork or what it offers, right? So how do you, I guess, seek people out to help?
So that's so fascinating you say that not everyone is sure about breathwork because that is so true and that is so okay. When the first time I was approached with it, I wanted nothing to do with it. So a lot of times people just, first of all, they don't quite understand. They don't understand it. And I'm like, that's okay. It's a little bit kooky sounding, right? And if you see it, like if you see something on Instagram, there's so many varieties and different facilitators and styles. There's the ones who do like the raging screams, and that can scare people. Like when you see somebody, I call it untethered, like they are just writhing on the ground. It can look really, really gnarly.
Off-putting, creepy.
Yeah. And I've been to a breathwork where they had that like very loud scream, and it's not for me because my system did not react well to that many people blood curdling screaming. And my experience when he cued the scream, I didn't need to scream. I was in this like peaceful place. And I'm like, wait, why are we screaming? Like, what's happening? So when people find their way into my room, it's usually they are so curious. They say, I want to try this. I've seen it. I've heard about it. My friend brought me. Another thing is people who feel like they are they're done holding on to anger or sadness. They feel stagnant, they feel stuck, and they're just ready to try a new modality. So I always tell people breath work is one of the many tools out there. It's not an end all be all. And what I will tell you is breath work, there are facilitators who will say it is for everyone. I call it's not. I think it's just like running. For me, I thought I wanted to be a runner. Running's not for me. I don't like it. It doesn't bring me joy. I know Kyla says the same thing.
I bet. Kyla and I believe we can make everybody runners.
Yeah. And that you can make us like it. You can't.
I know. I
I know.
really.
So it's not for everyone. Now, breath work works if you allow it to, and breath work also works and looks different for every person. Right? It
Yeah.
just depends where you are, and I have people, like I said, this one guy, he finds his way into my room every time I guide here locally, and you know why? He says it's the 1 hour a week that he actually just can, like, let his guard down and lay there. His wife doesn't nag him. He doesn't have work nagging him. He just gets to lay there and breathe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Cool."
I've never done like a whole class of breath work, but I know like a few of us had done something, and one of the comments was like a lot of people that work out, very control people, and it felt harder to do the breathing than like if you're going to go try to lift weights. Like it was, I don't want to use the word hurt, but it was almost like a little painful to like
Mhm.
actually sustain the breath. Is that common
Yes,
for
it's
people that
so
never breathe right? Yeah.
yes, and I love to bring normalization to that, because what I will tell you, girls, is a little secret that I have resistance to doing breath work because of that. It's hard and it's work.
Yeah.
And that's the part I think that people miss is the actual breath. And if you have been someone like I was for the first 37 years before finding breath work, that I'm not sure I took a real valid deep breath for a really long time, it's scary and it's hard. So I have people that they're like, I can't get the breath to come from my belly. And I'm like, understand that your body doesn't know that it's safe to do that. Your body is doing what it needs to keep you alive. And that is cool. And we need to honor that. And you just try every single session that you come to, that you participate in, to go a little deeper. You don't try, right? And here's the thing that I found: men are just a different species. When I've guided rooms of men, they just go into the ethers with their breath because they won't slow down. And women want to be able to feel safety first. They want that safety feature that the body says, it's okay to go just a little deeper with your breath. It's okay. And then I tell people, I am your secondary cue. Your first cue is your body. And you know how many people out there do not know how to listen to their body? They will override the cues day after day after day until they burn out. Whether it's with working out, whether it's with their career, they will override the cues of the body trying to talk to them. And then what happens? They usually get terribly sick. And so they are laid up in bed because the body was like, I tried. I tried to talk to you and you weren't listening. So we're going to make you stop. So never overriding the cues of the body in breath work. You know where you're at. I, as the guide, don't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting because you think, or people will think like, oh, it's breathing. It's supposed to just feel good the whole time and things like that. But in the beginning, I mean, I find it painful, like just to take deep breath, because I am a very shallow breather. I'm go, go, go. I'm all the things. I don't feel like I got all the gamuts. So for me, it would be like, I would think like learning yoga. Like I would have to understand, like, I'm not going to get it on the first lesson. And I think that's really important to know, because I do think, it's like, it's breathing, Nancy. You're supposed to be able to breathe. But if you put it in the perspective that you just said, we haven't been doing that. We haven't been paying attention and giving ourselves the permission to be a beginner breather,
Yes.
right? With breath work, that takes the anxiety away from it. I say, Alicia says, all the time, part of even our podcast is, we know that the majority of people really have no idea how good they should feel. And everything is like a little catalyst. That's what we're here to do, is like help them feel better in all modalities of life, right? Health, body, spiritual, nutrition, everything. So I think this is so important, and really learning to feel. You brought that up right at the beginning, and I have to say that's not what I was connecting in the beginning of breath work. And, I was thinking a little bit release, but I wasn't thinking feeling.
Mhm.
And so you mentioned how you started, like, how does that kind of happen, that process? Like, what is it about the breath work that helps us start feeling a little bit more and getting more in tune with our body?
Great question. I love it because I'm super passionate about this part because I was someone who I didn't want to express emotion. I didn't want to feel. I didn't want to let the emotion be seen. I oftentimes didn't know what I was feeling. Like it was just kind of like if someone were to ask me, actually, what are you feeling? I would have a really hard time like pinpointing it. What happens is our mind, think of our mind. Our mind is for survival, which it's dope. It's awesome, right? We need this mind. But the mind wants to make meaning out of everything. It wants to attach to something. That's what soothes it. That's what makes it feel better is when something makes sense. When we go, well, I feel this way because this happened to me. What happens with breath work that's so cool and allows the emotions to be is once this hypervigilance of the mind chills out with the breath, the body just feels and it will feel without wanting to attach it. So if you're in breath work and you suddenly feel this massive bout of sadness that comes over you because you don't even have to attach to anything. Your body, what your body wants to do, like body keeps the score, it wants to express, it wants to get those feelings out. So I want you to think of a small child. And when they have a big emotion, you can see it. Whether
Right.
they have a tantrum and collapse to the ground, whether they're super excited, right? And they start bouncing and jumping, you can see it. You visually could watch that child and go, oh, they are super excited. Us us adults, us big people, we don't do that. We just kind of suppress it. So in breath work, when the hypervigilance of the mind quiets down and goes, oh, she's not going to sit here and work to attach me to something. It settles down and the body starts to just feel these emotions that have always been there, they're not new. They've always been there, but they've just been kept so quiet in this little Pandora box. So when people say, I'm nervous of breath work, they're nervous of cracking that Pandora box. They don't want what could come spewing out of it. And that's what I found that very first experience into many years of what just kind of kept showing up that I was like, yeah, that's not new. That was just kept really safe in a little box. But it was causing a lot of my anxiety. So a lot of dis-ease in the body, right, leads to disease. And I believe that because so much of my anxiety has relieved itself by me allowing myself to feel feelings as they come. Because I give myself either the space where I do breath work on my own. I absolutely go and I'm held in breathwork spaces. When I know there's something, for instance, right now I have a little bit of anger just this week. Some things have come up. Guess what? I'm going to straight up go to either a boxing class, a rage room, or a breathwork session. I know I've got to get it out of me in a safe way. Yeah, exactly. Right?
I'm like, one's going to be physical, one's going to be mental,
Yeah.
and one's going to be like, one's going to be basically.
Alicia, why are you picking one?
Totally.
Yeah. I keep busy for those emotions. No.
Right.
I love it. I was going to ask.
Yeah, Nancy and I were like, what was I going to say?
You talked about 2019 and everything changing from this controlling and everything, and the word that's coming up. And when I look at you too, I have to say there are people I look at and I go, they are really just their authentic self. Like I can feel it and I get very envious of it because I'm like, I'm like a little robot and I'm doing and doing and doing. And I can see that in you. Do you feel like when you started the process in 2019, like, because you said like everything's just like different now, like, do you feel like there was you? And of course, people are like, what is authentic me? Because I thought I was always being me. But I always think it's when you're just in like a flow and you radiate kind of this joy. And to me, you radiate that. Is that how it always was? Is that kind of, do you feel like when you did breath work like that, your authentic self released?
1000%, because what I can tell you prior to finding breath work is I had to remember how a person knew me in order to know how to act. So I was not the same version of myself everywhere I went. I was
Wow.
like, do they know me? I used to be a co-host on a podcast. And I was like, do they know me from the podcast? Do they know me from this world? Do they know me from high school? Like, I didn't know who the hell I was. I'm going to be honest. I was very a chameleon, kind of whatever like needed to be. Since then, and the authentic journey, I think, takes really long. But the only reason I was just like feeling what you were saying, Nancy, is because I have worked for the better part of the last year to find who the hell Michelle Rains is, who I am. Like, if I strip all the labels, all the titles from me, who am I? And wherever I go in the world, that's who I am. That is who I am, because I don't have to remember how you know me.
Yeah.
And what I have been able to access that through is going back to what makes my soul happy. Guess what? One thing that makes my soul happy is dancing like an absolute maniac. What was that? Dancing?
Like parties.
I want to
Yeah.
dance too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, you know what? I do it on my Instagram. I do, and I'm not by any means, I don't know how, but it literally lights my soul on fire. Like, music to me is a whole frequency. It's a whole way of like me feeling a certain way. And I just kept going back to like, what makes my soul happy? Not what makes my best friend happy, not what makes my husband happy. Like, what lights me up, because that is in line with my authentic self. Another thing is finding your core values in life. That is your North Star. If you really identify your values, you know who you are, and you know what kind of people are allowed access to you.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to trial and error, right? Like when you're trying to figure out what lights you up, like do the breath work, do the dancing, do something else. Some things you might go, it wasn't what I thought. That's okay. It's life, right? Like, but keep going, because I love that. Like when you find, and you know, the thing that lights you up, you know, like right away. But I love that. And it radiates from you. And I love that you are you wherever you go.
Thank you.
Like, and I'm sure there are so many people who can relate exactly to what you said. Like, how do I know these people? Like, how am I supposed to behave here? Like, how am I supposed to act? What am I supposed to, Alicia and I, what are we not supposed to say?
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you would say that, but I also think that there's a lot of times that you don't actually say it. You just naturally do it. Mm-hmm. There is a part of you as a human that already has that knowing. And the chameleon part is just easy, because it's almost like your subconscious is like, oh, I remember how to do this in front of this person.
Yes.
Yeah.
You control it by asking, how should I be? But your body, you'll notice like, oh, all of a sudden I held my glass differently.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I didn't tell myself, oh, don't forget to put, like there are things that you do. See, so it's interesting for me, Michelle, because as an actress, I have to access my feelings.
Oh, yeah.
The access of my feelings is, well, when I need them, right?
Yes.
Like I have to tap in for like, oh, it's at 3:00 on a Tuesday, Nancy, I got to run to my audition, and it's got this thing, and she loses the baby, and it's a whole scene. And I'm like, I don't even feel like crying today. Right?
Oh my goodness. I've never even thought of that. Mind blown. Yes.
Right. So that's why I'm like, okay, so all my actor friends, we need Michelle, because here's the thing. We do keep a box. We have a Pandora box as a tool. Like it's our toolbox.
Oh, yes.
But here's the thing. We also want to show up authentically to that emotion.
Mm-hmm.
We also want to, you write, and there's so many deep dives that you can go where you're like, think about this story or do this. And then you're like reliving your trauma, or you're faking it. Like there's so much to this, the whole thing. And that is why I think I really loved doing your masterclass, which I want you to also speak on, because I know that you guys have another one coming. Plus
we're going to
continue thing this summer. You can tell everybody about if they're a member. But oh wow, that was a fast, quick access to my emotions that I didn't have to think about. All I did was breathe. And that's the other day when it caught me off guard. I said, oh, there it is again. We took a deep breath, and now we're crying. And I was like, is that the secret? I was like, Michelle's going to be here on Wednesday and she can tell everybody. But I was going to ask you, is there a technique that you used? Because I noticed that you did a guided meditation with us that I felt really safe in that. But like box counting or things like that, is that something that you do in your training and then you adopt or you change? Or because I know a lot of people are like, well, I count in, I hold it, I exhale, and I don't feel different.
Yes. So yes, part of certification is these 5 techniques that pause breath work, which is what I went through. They have adopted. And one that you will hear across the board with breath work is the 3-part breath. So you breathe from your belly, you pull it up into your chest, and you exhale through the mouth. And it's all done through the mouth. So it's mouth, up, out. Okay. So you have to interrupt the subconscious breathing for you. And that is not a normal way to breathe, to 3-part breath, right? But you start to get in a rhythm with it. You go belly, chest, exhale. I always tell people, yes, right? I always tell people too, if mouth breathing is too hard for you, you bring it through the nose. Nose, belly, chest, out. Okay. But here's the thing, the sigh of relief, breath of fresh air, take a breath, all these things we say, there's a freaking reason. It's because we need to slow down.
Damn thing.
And you know what? We have this thing in our house. We audibly exhale. And how often when you hear someone do an audible exhale, you go, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong.
Yes.
I'm breathing, damn it. That's all I'm doing. Right? Like I'm getting a big, deep breath in and out of my body. And I tell you, it feels so good. And I always tell people too, if you're in conflict, take 3 deep breaths before you say anything. And people won't do it because they either are reactionary or they feel silly to be like, hold on, I'm going to take 3 deep breaths. But we've got to, as society, go, I got to step back for just a minute, right? And that is my whole thing that I teach a lot of my clients is reactionary versus responding. And what's in here is a pause. So take a breath.
No, it's good that you would say that because I was reading, let's refer to my bookshelf. It was Jay Shetty's The 8 Rules of Love. And in the fight, because I believe that this is a game changer for relationships and goes right into the breathing, is grab the person's hand before you speak. But here's what happens, Michelle. You'll go to reach for somebody's hand, and what's the first thing you do? Okay.
Yes.
You take a breath. It's very interesting, but I have tried it, and I was like, oh, you do. You speak to the person so differently when you're holding their hand and you're upset. But it forces you to also take a breath before. And I think that that's just so grounding. Yeah. And because we're so busy all the time, just being rooted a little bit and giving yourself that permission to just be like, I'm just got to be right here, right now with me is good. Yeah. It's okay. And it is safe. Like we're not getting mauled by tigers right now. Like,
nope.
Not unless that's your job and, on some sanctuary.
Right.
I mean, I wonder for the people that come to you, that's why I guess if it's like a resistance or when do they notice or how do they start discovering their shifts?
It's crazy because so many people are we're all different, right? And it's a beautiful thing. I have people who come to one breathwork session and they go, this is what I've been missing. I've tried everything else. And this is what has gotten me to the point of being able to actually cry, or this is what's gotten me to the point of actually being able to feel something. And I have got people who I see them one time and I never see them again, right in a breathwork space. And you don't really know their story. And so what I actually started to create was an online community that is like these couple different phases of that we go through, which is the foundation of breathwork and what breathwork can provide for you and what it actually feels like in your system. And so what I like about creating this community is I see a person from day one of maybe trying breathwork to 8 weeks into the program and what's maybe shifted for them. Then we go into phase 2 of how do we embody now? Because that's the thing. And I'm sure you women know this. It's all for naught if we don't integrate or implement what we're learning. You can read, trust me, I had a PhD in self-development in 2018. I did nothing with the knowledge. Yeah. Like I think we all can relate to that, right? So if you do nothing with the knowledge you're given, or even the knowledge that comes up in breath work, if you don't start to piece it back together, it's all for nothing. So I do love these like moments where I get to go into a space and I get to blow people out of the water with breath and music. And, it's a big kind of feels like a production type thing. And some people love that. And then my online community I get to nurture them more, and I get to kind of see them. We do breath work one night, and then the next week we talk about what came up. Okay, what came up? How do we integrate that into your life to make you the next version of yourself? And it's called the evolution of you for a reason, because this evolution of us is here right now, but what's going to be here in a year? Like, how cool is that, right? We get to keep growing.
We get to keep upgrading. I love that. So your course is called
The Evolution of You.
The Evolution of You. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's online.
It is. So it's virtual. And we do breath work, we do integration teaching calls, we do visualization, and we do connection calls where we're actually really truly connecting with the other women in the group. Like it's not this surface level stuff. We are deeply connecting with people, because I just have this profound, and your prior guest and our mutual friend, Kyla, we just have this belief that women need safe places. Women need safe containers to be in. And I am passionate about, I have felt what it feels like to feel alone. And I just never want anyone to have to experience that. And so I thought, what can I do to better this world, to provide a space where people don't feel alone? Because you can be surrounded with people and feel so alone. And it's
just, that's the kicker, right? Because and that's where the women and men that busy themselves, distract themselves, booze themselves, sex themselves, gamble themselves, go hardcore on a diet themselves. You do all of these repetitive behaviors that are really not serving you.
Yeah.
Right. And then you feel punished, and then you have shame or humiliation or embarrassment, and then you self-deprecate, you beat yourself up. And at the end of the day, it's not, I always want to say, but it's not you. That doesn't have to be you right now. It does not have to be you 5 minutes from now. Like that really can change in just a breath, right? Like,
yes.
That discovery of you in that moment. So, so people can find you on Facebook to join.
Yeah. So my Instagram is the place I am absolutely the most active. And in there, I talk about this program. The really cool thing is your prior guest, Kyla, she has her own program. I have my own program, but the cool thing is our community ends up coming together. So if you graduate from both of our programs, you're then in a community that is her people, my people, and it happens to all be women. And we just want to create this big, huge community of women. Just Kyla and I say we should all be rooting for each other. So we just want to create that. Yeah.
And it, I think online kind of got a good rap in 2020, then it got a bad rap because everybody was tired of it. But it really is funny if done right. And it sounds like it's completely done where you're like, we actually talk and we go deep. You really can find those deeper relationships that, are hard to find in person. And you're all on, I think what makes it even more so is you all are on the same journey. I think that's where it's right. Like everybody that's in your group is on the same journey for, their reasons might be different, but they're there. So they connect already, because it is really hard to meet people. I mean, I've lived in Texas now almost 10 years. I don't have, for real, a single friend. Alicia is my really good friend, and we've never met.
Isn't that fascinating though? Right there. Yes.
But I feel like I've known Nancy my whole life.
Yes.
I tell her about every minute of my day, to the point where I'm sure she's like, that's enough. And I'm like, Nancy, I'll just tell Nancy will listen.
No, I love it.
I stepped my toe. No. Because we found, and I think that's one of those things that if you can build that community, because you have the takeaway people. Right. And even if it's just the one person, that one person can make such a monumental difference in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And I know that you and Kyla have that. I feel like Nancy and I have that. And I'm glad the four of us can powwow for some future. I see something.
I see it too. Yeah.
And it will start with the dance party. That's totally fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
has to.
I'm up for a dance
Yeah.
party all day long.
Right, all day long.
Yeah.
And then you have a master class. Are people invited to that? Can they find that as well, so they can kind of get a taste of what you do? And you and Kyla?
Yes. So Kyla and I put on, it's a journey within the magical masterclass is what we have coined it. And we do a little bit of all the things in there, right? You get a little taste of breath work, a little taste of visualization. There is a little bit of movement via dance. We kind of try to do a little bit of all of it. And that masterclass is happening it's about every 6 weeks. We just did one this past week. So another one will be coming up in 6 weeks. And those are an hour to 90 minutes. And then another thing that Kyla and I are going to start offering together is these kind of drop-in moments of like drop in and do 11 minutes worth of breath work with me, right? I'll just pop on an Instagram live, guide, whoever on the live through some breath work. And
Michelle, now I have to put notifications on my phone.
I know.
Yeah.
You do.
I mean, you're the only person that said that I would be like, all right.
And immediately,
text.
immediately we have to make sure where people can find you on Instagram. We'll put it in the show notes, but right now, if they're listening, like where can they find you? And right now go and start following you.
Absolutely. I love it because my daughter makes fun of me. She calls me by my Instagram handle. It is the breath within you. She does not call me mom. She calls me the breath within you. That is also my website. So thebreathwithinyou.com. Super simple to find me there. But yeah, I jam out on Instagram probably more than I should, but it's really fun to connect with people on there. So anyone listening, please reach out if you have any questions, any hesitancy, because man, did I ever have the hesitancy of breath work. So I get it. I really do.
I love it. Thank you so much for giving us an hour of your
Oh
time
man,
on such a hectic week, no less. I mean, how
absolutely. Quality time's my love language. So I'm like, this is perfect.
Oh, good.
I
So
don't
you
have to
got
get you a gift. Yeah.
touch and quality time. You guys are back to jamming now. I got you.
Totally. So thank
I
you so
love it.
much for trusting me with your platform. I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Thank you for being here and giving and sharing. And we just want to thank our listeners. Please like, subscribe, comment. We promise to put all Michelle Rain's goodies in the show notes. Nancy, am I missing anything?
No, that's it. Just a double thank you. Ditto on all of that. Absolutely amazing. I feel our listeners are going to be very blessed once they listen
breathing already.
to this one today. Yes. Now we're all going to go breathe.
Yep. Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you to our listeners. Liking, subscribing.
It's usually Nancy, I
sharing. All right. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Signing off.
Bye.